Hey,
Well, hi. Welcome to
hi.
the Ann Leighton. Hi. I love this. This is the Ann Leighton Inclusion Interview Show where we talk about the difference between kindness and cruelty, especially with an emphasis on kindness. And today we're going to emphasize creativity, music, and belonging to a gang of friends as well as individuality. And I have a special guest today, Johanna Hall. Hi, Johanna. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you, Anne?
I'm pretty good. I'm having fun. I'm psyched to be interviewing you. It's the first day of
Spring.
spring.
Yay.
Yes.
And yesterday for the first time this season, I had ducks in my pond. A pair
Did
of
you?
wood a pair of wood ducks, and I was so excited when I saw them that I laughed out loud in delight.
That is so cool. I love that. I love hanging out with ducks and animals. And actually, I have to say that I was inspired to do this interview for tons of reasons, but what happened was you posted on your social media that you had a new website,
Yes.
and that site was just for me, I just felt your energy on so many levels, and I did not realize your full history as a rock writer, rock music writer,
Hmm.
and how that changed the world for you. And one of the things, there's a lot I saw on your site. One was because today's the first day of spring, I noticed that you printed the lyrics to a co-write with John Sebastian, Counting
Yes.
on Spring. Wh-
Yeah.
But you took a different angle that people, because on some levels there's almost will there be a rebirth that we
Mm.
go through every year.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's a
That's true.
it's like a motivating song or something. Where did it come from?
Oh, songs come from so many different places, as you know.
Yeah.
Um, uh, there's a naturalist named Ward Stone who used to be on WAMC, my local um, listener supported radio,
Hmm.
and I heard him say one day, "We've been counting on spring for a very long time," and that just struck me. And I wrote it down, and I made it into uh, a little rhyme about I may be a fool to think you could be mine, but we've been counting on spring for a very long time, and making it into a metaphor of the birds coming back, and the snow in the fields, and blah blah blah. And so I asked John Sebastian, would you write a song with me? And he said, sure. So I,
Oh,
I, I gave him the lyric, and we had a regular Thursday date for a while where he even left a guitar here for a while.
sweet.
And we worked on the song for a long time. And I'd love to get it recorded by somebody who would um, be heard. I wanted Nora Jones or James Taylor. So it's something I'm kind of fixing to like get out and pitch.
Yeah, I'll get you her info, her manage the last
Oh,
info I had on a manager later on for sure.
oh, cool. That'd be great.
Yeah,
But
I, 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 I think
but
so.
John Sebastian is one of my idols. I mean, I recently said to him, I think of you as our Stephen Foster, in that he's written these timeless uh, marriages of music and words that say something deep in a plain way. Does that make sense?
Well, I have an
He's,
Irish singer-songwriter named Hank Waddell that John Sebastian has inspired him on so many levels, as well
yeah,
as the Grateful Dead. Those are his two favorites.
yeah. Well,
And
John's, you know, he's on my website. I have a couple of articles that I wrote about John. And the first one I wrote was like, way back before I was even a songwriter, I think. And it was in the Village Voice, I think. And he played the bitter end. And the first line of my review was, I love John Sebastian. And that's all anyone can say, because he's just so lovable and so natural on stage,
yeah,
you know. And he told me a wonderful story about that in one of my later interviews with him. Um, his, as you probably know, his father was a famed classical harmonica player, and his mother was um, a great journalist herself. And a family friend was Vivian Vance, who
from
played,
Lucy.
she was Lucy's sidekick. And
Oh,
so she was his Aunt Viv.
wow.
And one time she was doing a play and he was backstage and he was, I think, maybe 5, 6 years old. We talked about this the other day, in fact. And at the curtain call, she came off. He was in the wings, and she took his hand and brought him on stage. And she said to him, "That curtain is going to go up, and the people are going to be yelling and clapping um, because they're happy, not
Yeah,
because not because they're mad." And and that happened. And he said that's what made him be so comfortable on stage.
that is so true.
Yeah. So, and yeah, he's something.
He is totally and very fluid as a songwriter and
Yeah.
personality. Every time I've seen them on TV, um, Sebastian and the Loving Spoonful, there's
Yeah.
been that lucidity about him. So you're absolutely,
He's
yeah,
he's really he's a very smart and kind, very loving person. And there's a movie that's been made about him that we saw at Bearsville Theater in December. Um, Kind of a overview of his career. That's
it's like a
pretty interesting. I forget what it's called. Oh, I'll paint rainbows all over your blues is the name of the
beautiful
movie.
title.
Yeah.
It's a
Um,
documentary, I bet.
a doc, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I can relate, I started in show business first in radio, but I was always writing
Oh,
along the
yeah.
way. And you started as a rock journalist or music of
Yes.
the day.
Well, both of my parents were newspaper people. My dad was a drama critic. My mom was a feature writer. They met during the war, the Second World War, where they both worked at the Washington Post. And
Wow.
he joined the Air Force and she got his job. She was a copy girl.
Yeah, yeah.
And so anyway, but then he came back. They had a family. She just did feature writing. So I have printer's ink in my blood.
Yeah.
And when I flunked out of college, um, because I was paying attention to boys, not
Yes.
studies, uh, they got me a job on the local paper as a proofreader. And it was during the time of hot type. Um, Yeah, and
What is hot?
it was the 60s.
Mhm.
Um, in uh, the it's before computers, and the newspapers were printed literally, and the printers would put the pages together with with um,
Those squares.
with little letters, and
Right, right.
they would build it, and then they would run a proof, and they would. I was in the middle of the composing room, and they would bring the proof, and I would go through and correct it, and then they would go back and fix whatever I found, and
Wow.
then they would make what was called a mother, where they they had set the type in the pages, and then it got pressed into a the mother. It was a like a thing that then was inked and used as they turned out the paper.
This is
You've you,
totally old
you
school.
yeah, yeah. You've seen maybe what was the movie Spotlight?
I don't
Um
know.
that was that was
Mhm.
about the Boston Globe breaking the scandal of the Catholic churches preying on kids.
Right,
It's a really good movie. And at the end of it, they show the presses running and this as the story, and they show the newspapers going getting put on the trucks
right.
outside. And that made me cry because and if you
Sure.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, when I first was writing music reviews for the Village Voice in the 60s, I was writing not even on an electric typewriter. I had a 1929 Underwood that had been
Sure.
my parents' typewriter,
Yeah.
and I would I would write my piece, and then I would take this page and I would run across town to the Village Voice with my copy, and I
Right.
hand it to my editor like that. So, the idea of where we are now, where, you know, you don't have to leave your chair,
No, I
you
don't.
know, to
But it's a
like,
good idea.
yeah, it is. You write your piece and you send it.
Yeah.
It's that is a revolution. Um,
It it is, but I'm thinking of all the jobs that have been s- uh, thrown out over the years from I mean, how big were the newspaper staffs back in the 60s versus in
well,
the 40s and
well,
50s?
of course, newspapers were more important, and that's where people got their information. But
Yeah,
now they get it from such a variety of things, and they don't have to have a piece of paper.
right.
You know, we're all kind of screen addicts.
Yeah. Well, we are, and I like that because the ecology of not cutting down trees is a wonderful thing.
There's that.
The yeah, but the loss of jobs and fact checkers, although we need fact checkers, I think we need fact checkers even as much as we need proofreaders because people will
It
criticize
well,
that.
more. We need them more
Yeah.
for sure. But now you have spell check and other ways that copy gets corrected
True.
kind of as you go.
Yeah, and the writer is more responsible for the final content,
Right, right.
which is a pro thing, although it's really hard to edit yourself, even with spell check. I use AI as well to say, hey, what do you think of this, and where can it be a better
You do?
story? Yeah, I
Ooh,
do. I ask it questions, and it'll offer suggestions, which I can
really?
take or leave. Yeah.
Huh. And do you find they're good suggestions?
Some have been really good suggestions, things I didn't think of. I think one or two have prevented me from probably getting a lawsuit thrown at me.
What? Well, that's
Yeah,
important.
there's a
Yeah.
local political group that I criticize a little too much. So it's life. It's me um,
Well,
being getting a
it,
second thought. So, but eh, I, there's nothing like having a human editor as well because that's real give and take. So, and
well,
sooner or later,
that's
yeah,
true. And they do say that, particularly for students, using AI to write a paper robs them of the learning process of
truth.
how to write a paper. Um,
Yeah,
that you learn as you go. I mean, for you as a professional, um, if it can be a good backup, you know,
yeah.
and
Well, yeah, a lot of times I'm writing at 3 or 4 in the morning. So I'm gonna, I haven't found an editor out of Australia. We're, and because they're up at that hour, but they're not up
oh,
here in New
I see.
York.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see.
I think that's another thing that the internet has done is given everybody uh, time to go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, whereas back in the day, New York City at night, man,
Mm-hmm.
that was so much
Yeah.
fun. There was I would get home at 4 in the morning sometimes
Wow.
from the city. It was amazing. You interviewed Stevie Wonder. And
Yes.
that
Yeah.
was so far, that's one of my
Oh,
favorite
yeah.
artists. You and John were in on that interview.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Well, I did some writing for Crawdaddy magazine,
yeah,
and they assigned me the Stevie Wonder interview. And it was around the same time that Orleans was making, must have been the first Asylum album, and we were in LA.
right.
We were at the Chateau Marmont,
Mm,
and so, but I guess it was, right the week before the band started recording. John and I went out and followed Stevie around for a week, waiting for him to sit down for an interview,
right.
which was very interesting.
Yeah,
Uh, and he had, I loved him. It took a week before he was ready to sit down and let me question him. And, I did a cassette recording of the
right.
conversation, which I then transcribed over a long period of time while Orleans was in the studio at night and I was at my desk at the Chateau Marmont, just with my typewriter and my cassette player and rewinding and
Yeah,
to
yeah,
copy exactly what he said. And I would be looking down on the lights of Hollywood, and I'd be doing that all night, and they'd be in the studio all night, and I would hear coyotes in the dawning. So it took me a really long time to transcribe, and then I had to I had to edit it in a funny way when because if I just wrote stream of consciousness what he actually said, it made him sound crazy, because he was just. But like I took sound bites and made the article kind of make sense. Um, but he's one of the great geniuses of my time.
yeah.
And it was an honor to hang around him. And actually, he played a record for me and John on a boombox that never
Wow.
came that never came out.
What?
Yeah,
And
he
did he?
must. He
Wanted
must
to?
he must have so much music in the can. He
Yeah.
played this entire record for us. And John might remember um, some of the songs. One of them was called The Future. Um, You're asking me, what will it be? I say the future's up to you and me.
Wow.
Yeah. And there was another one called The Bumblebee of Love.
Good
And
title.
the chorus was, Why do you sting me? And we were amazed because it was such a great record. We never heard it again. The
Man.
guy was so prolific
Yeah.
and such a pleasure to be around. He was funny. He was really funny. One time he was talking to someone on the phone and he went, Does this sound like I'm hanging up on you? And he hung up. So, um, yeah, that was a highlight of my journalism career, I think.
Cool. Yeah, I like that I mean, you wrote a lot of interviews for the Village Voice. Everybody was a star that you wrote about. And nowadays, I guess in the early 2000s, you were writing for the local papers in Woodstock.
Right.
And a lot of the interviews that you did were of community people, and they didn't have to be superstars. And I
Yeah,
like
I
that.
did that. Yeah. Well, I did a
Yeah,
series called Growing Up Woodstock that fascinated me that uh, kids who grew up in Woodstock and stayed here, and what their experience was, of growing up here.
right.
Um, so there was that. I also did a lot of, musician, poet, writer,
Yeah.
piece interviews,
I,
which was a real joy to be able to do, you know,
yeah.
to talk to some of these really great, if not widely known, uh, writers.
I hear you. Yeah, I like that you've got this whole range where you're a poet all the way to being a songwriter, all the way to being an article writer. And your website, the way johannahall.com is laid out, you're also telling your story and
Yes,
you've got archives.
yes, that was the intention, really, for my daughter and granddaughter to
Sure.
like create, um, to aggregate my work in one place, and really just doing it was the reward. Just to it took us a long time, um, to put all of that together. But then, just the seeing it,
Right.
like some of the things I'm like, wow, I wrote that. That's really good.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so, but I mean, it's more than a 50-year career. So
Yeah, it's a great
um,
career.
there's a lot. Yeah, and I don't know if you knew that I wrote an opera.
So it looked like there were three different operas. What is the opera
There's
company?
Well, Ars Chораlis is
Mm-hmm.
a Woodstock based, choral group, and the director Barbara Pickhart, and I wrote an opera together that uh, took us about 20 years to finish. It be,
Sure.
it began as a commission from a local church that was, doing. They established something called the Woodstock Cycle. And so it was commissioning local composers to write pieces that were based on Bible stories or characters or spiritual um, things, not necessarily only Christian.
Right.
Um, and Barbara, I was singing with Ars Chorales, which I loved. I
Mhm.
loved. I sang in the alto section. Um, yeah, and as I've said, I really liked being a drop of water in a river of music. I liked blending with the other singers. I never have wanted to be a soloist,
Right.
but to be part of that group was um, fulfilling in a wonderful way. And so Barbara got a commission to write something, and she asked me if I would do the libretto.
Cool.
And I said, "Oh, okay." And she wanted to do the Annunciation, which I didn't really know about, but it was when uh, Mary was visited by an angel, Gabriel, and told, "You're having God's baby." And she says, "What?" Well, okay. And it's called the Annunciation, and it's been set by classical composers in forever. So that's what Barbara wanted to do for a little piece. And I said, okay. And so I put my spin on it that every child is a gift from God, you know,
Absolutely.
and every mother is blessed. So we did that. It was about a 12-minute piece. And then we just decided we'll keep going. And so over 20 years, we had three different iterations as it grew. One of my favorite things was creating Herod because later, and it was before Trump, and later I realized how much he was, you know, that
Uh-huh.
type.
Yeah,
So,
that type.
yeah. So that was, um, that, that was a long term creative uh, stretch for me
Yeah.
to in the classical idiom. Uh, and then we did we did a recording a few years ago that was very satisfying. And I it's the story of the birth of Christ, but it ends with Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, refugees. They have to go to Egypt because Herod is now going to kill all the
Yes.
boys,
Yes.
young
Because
boys.
he knew Jesus was competition. Yes.
Yeah. So there were things that were very current,
Yeah.
in the story. And so who knows? Um, there's only a couple of Christmas operas. There's The Messiah,
Yeah.
and there's A Mall and the Night Visitors by Menotti. That's kind of it. So maybe someday Miracle in Bethlehem can join the
Absolutely.
Christmas
And
cavalcade, the
is
cavalcade of
Miracle
Christmas.
mhm. Is Miracle in Bethlehem online? Can we
It
hear
is.
it? Okay.
It is. It is. And I think on my website, I also have a link, but it's just miracleinbethlehem.com.
Cool.
Um, and so it's its own website, and then it's also on Spotify.
I hear you. Yeah.
So, but I think the thing to do would be to maybe do a performance one year
Yes.
at Christmas time. But
Absolutely.
I'm also hoping to write something new with Barbara. I had talked. I've been talking to her about a few ideas, and maybe we'll be lucky enough to be able to create a second opera. We
I
also
think
did a
so.
we also did a short piece we for a second commission from that Woodstock church, based on something called the Inscription of Hope that was found on a basement wall after World War II. And it was, even when I can't see him, I believe in God, basically,
Nice.
with the message. So Barbara wanted to write about that. So we wrote a scenario where um, a girl and her grandmother were hiding from the Nazis,
Right.
and they're hungry. And they have this conversation that ends in the I believe, even when the sun isn't shining and still there, kind of. Um, and so that was another short piece, another 12, 15-minute piece. And I, it turns out the whole, and other classical composers have set the Inscription of Hope to music. That was
Sure.
where Barbara got the idea. Turns out totally apocryphal.
Oh,
No, it was
wow.
made up. Yeah, it wasn't really found.
Well,
But
you hope.
you,
We all live in hope. So,
yeah,
boom.
yeah.
There you
So,
go.
so it was a nice idea. So we had a few short pieces like that we did at different times, um,
That's
but
cool.
Miracle in Bethlehem was the long form that took 20 years to perfect.
And well worth it. And
Yeah,
that is good. That is good. And yeah, I mean, songs, music has lives, life of its own. Each song has different lives.
true.
And you just never, and our lives have, like spring, our lives have different lives. When
Yeah.
you were a kid, what did you imagine yourself doing as a
You
career?
know, well, because I grew up in the 50s and 60s.
Right.
Um, I remember in high school saying I would like to marry an artist.
Sure.
I didn't see myself as being an artist. I didn't
Interesting.
I
Okay.
didn't I didn't know yet that I was a writer. I kept
Right.
a diary. I actually, when I was in the seventh grade, I wrote for the local newspaper, little tidbits of, you know, from my school that they would print, you
Right.
know. So I came by it quite honestly, but in my era, women weren't really supposed to have careers,
And
you know.
yet,
So I
yeah.
thought, well, it would be nice if I could marry an artist. Not like, and my parents, although they were both writers, they were encouraging me to like become a teacher, which I did much, much later, do some teaching. Um, but that there wasn't that much that a woman could do.
Right.
You could
Right.
be an actress, a singer, I guess. But it was like you could be a nurse or a teacher.
What energy were you feeling or projecting in the room when Janis Joplin said, who was hanging out in your apartment with John Hall, and she said, "No, John, these lyrics are for a man. Johanna, let's see what you could do."
Well, she didn't say that. Um,
Okay.
but what happened was, well, John was in a band with a singer named Barbara Keith, who I adored, and the band was called Kangaroo.
Sure. Free the
And,
people.
and right, oh, I love Barbara, and I didn't think there was that much room for a band with a chick singer. So when we
Hmm.
heard about Janis Joplin, I did not want to like her. And
Oh,
no, I was like competition. And so then John and I went to see her at a club that later became Jimi Hendrix studio. He
Electric
he took,
Ladyland.
but it was a club. I forget what it was called
I'll
on
find out.
Eighth Street between Sixth and McDougal. Anyway, it was in a downstairs of this building, and we went there, and man, we're sitting there. Her band comes on. They weren't great, Big Brother. And they're sort of playing, and then all of a sudden, the sound out of nowhere, and I looked around. It was Janice, and she came running on the stage, shouting, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, mama, mama!" And I was just like, "Oh my God!" I was totally. I mean, she she did that thing that you really want in a concert. She made the audience one. We became with her. Um, Lifted. It's that epiphany that you get when
Hmm.
you really. Anyway, after that, I dreamt about her, and every time she played New York, we went to see her, and then she left Big Brother, and all of the male critics were, and other people were saying, "Oh, she's on a star trip.
Uh-huh.
You don't leave your band." But I mean, nobody said that about Stevie Winwood when he went from Spencer Davis to, you know, to
Right.
Traffic to, so she put out her first solo album, Cosmic Blues,
Right,
and
right.
I gave it a rave review. And
Mhm.
I said that she was my generation's Judy Garland or Edith Piaf,
Sweet.
you know. So her publicist, Myra Friedman, called me up and said, Janice wants to meet you. And so she told me that Janice was feeling very insecure, and she had asked her manager, Albert Grossman, Albert, when nobody wants me anymore, will you give me a job in the office? Now, Albert Grossman, he had Bob Dylan, he had the band, he had Gordon Lightfoot, Odetta.
Peter,
Um,
Paul, and Mary.
he put Peter, Paul, and Mary together.
Right.
Yes, he found Mary and put her,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's unfortunately not remembered as he should be.
Oh
But
my.
he had a great office in Manhattan, and this publicist called me up and said, Janice wants to meet you. And we set up an interview. I went to my editor at The Voice, and I said, "Oh, I'm told she's gotten very insecure about this and blah, 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 blah." So um, he gave me the go ahead. And so I went and to meet her. She was in the Fifth Avenue Hotel downtown. And um, she and I just clicked.
Cool.
And we spent 12 hours together that day and just walked around, and we had dinner. And also, she told me that she had been addicted to heroin
Oh, wow.
and that Albert had sent her somewhere to get clean. This is before Betty Ford, or, there was no, I don't know where she went, but I couldn't write about her. She became my friend. And so
Yeah.
so then I wrote a sort of puff piece,
Hmm.
and I gave it to the editor, and he said, "This isn't what you said," and write all that other. And I was like, "No, I'm not writing it." So then whenever she was in town, she'd come to our apartment and hang out with us. And there was one time she and John played Christmas carols as blues songs,
Oh,
you know,
wow. Cool.
and
Fly on the
so
wall.
So it was me who said, like, John played his songs, and they didn't strike her. She didn't say anything about them. I knew that it was lyrically not um, something that expressed her, because he was an 18-year-old boy. You
Uh-huh.
know, he was he loved the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix, and so it was. And Janice was always looking for new songs.
Right,
And the
right.
reason that she left Big Brother was that they didn't want to learn any new songs. And she was like,
Sure.
I'm hungry for, growth. So uh, there was a particular moment where she was leaving our apartment, and I'm saying goodbye to her at the door. And she said, why don't you two write me a song? And I
You
looked
too.
at her and she said, you're a woman, you're a writer, write me a song. And yeah, and so that was how I became a songwriter. And John, my because my father was a drama critic, he had hooked John up with a playwright protege of his, Israel Horovitz. And Israel's son is one of the Beastie Boys, Adam Horovitz, or Adam, whatever.
Yes.
And Israel and my dad were tight, and Israel was doing a play on Broadway, and he wanted rock music. So he asked my dad, like, does your son-in-law? So John had done that, and he did two shows with Israel. The second one was directed by Rip Torn. It starred Hervé Villechaize and a couple of other uh, interesting actors.
Hmm.
It won the Obie that year,
Yay.
and it ran for one performance because Rip
Yay.
got in a fight. The opening night, the producers, these young producers, said, "Well, you can't have any." They had this sheet cake. You can't have any cake until the reviews come in. And Rip goes, "Oh yeah," and he goes and scoops handfuls of cake and goes around to each person. And they decided to close it. Then it won the Obie. But excuse me, John
Good.
got another gig writing music for a play that was being developed in Philadelphia
Hmm.
by a woman named Rosalind Drexler, who was also a lady wrestler.
Nice.
And he wrote 20 songs for that. The play never made it out of development. But he would take the train from New York to Philadelphia and go down and work. And he would write, she would send him lyrics, and
Right.
he would write on the train. So when Janice said, write me a song, I said to John, you know that one piece, and this was later when it hadn't gone anywhere. And I said, you know that one piece, I'd like to rewrite the lyrics. And the lyric that Rosalind had written was, wow me now, wow my sock, get me out when I'm in hock. And I changed that to half moon, nighttime sky, seven stars, heaven's eyes. And then I took it from there to be Janice was in love with this guy who was in Timbuktu, I think, who had gone traveling. And so I wrote it in the voice of Janice speaking to this guy
You
that
knew her. Yeah.
I tried to make it her story.
Right.
And so we did that. At the same time, John had gotten a record deal with Columbia
Mhm.
that Harvey Brooks, the bass player, um, had been signed as a producer A&R by Columbia. And he signed John. And on John's record budget, we went out to California to record in LA and San Francisco. And Harvey brought Wells Kelly as the drummer and Paul Harris as the keyboard player. And so that was a quartet that was called Thunder Frog and was playing around. You know, we were all there on John's record budget, but they were playing around Marin County and so forth. And we took a band house in Mill Valley.
Sure.
And Janis was living in Larkspur, which was one of the next towns over. So uh, John and I we went out to California early and had the house to ourselves and in an afternoon. I mean, because he already had the music. So we wrote we wrote Half Moon. We called it Seven Song. But after Janice died, you know, they didn't know that they Half Moon is the first line. So they called it that on the record. And
Okay.
so that's
And
fine,
so on.
you know.
Yeah.
But we um we wrote that in an afternoon. You know, I'd been thinking about it too, and I really liked that music. Had a great guitar riff that he had written.
Of
John
course.
John is such an underestimated guitar player.
Oh
I
God,
mean,
yeah.
he's but and so then we wrote the song and we went over to Janice's house where she had the Full Tilt Boogie Band and they were
Mm-hmm.
rehearsing. And Albert had sent Todd Rundgren to rehearse the band.
Right.
And so John taught the song to the band and they loved it, especially for the guitar riff, you know. And after that, she did it at every show until she died. And um, she recorded it with a scratch vocal before she died. And that's, I mean, she was going to go back and redo the vocal. Not that I think she needed to,
No, of
but
course.
that
But
was that's how they were working. Paul Rothschild was the producer,
hmm
and I was so shocked when she died. And you know, that was my first time of losing someone that way.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
and Albert had a partner for a short time named Bennett Glotzer,
Okay.
who ripped a lot of people off, including us. But he he was managing Frank Zappa, Tom Rush, and John. You know, so but anyway, Bennett called me and said, the day she died, he called me and he said, "Don't worry, she cut your song." It's like, oh, that's the last thing I care about.
Right, right.
And yet, she launched me as a songwriter, and um, they put Half Moon on the B side of Me and Bobby McGee.
You knew her voice, just as you know Orleans's voice. And
Right,
just obviously,
right,
you and John Sebastian work well together, and Janelle Mosser. You
right.
know you write songs
Her
for
voice.
artists whose
Yeah,
voices you know. I
that's
mean,
true. That's,
yeah,
yeah, that's true. So that, I mean, writing for Janice, I mean, I wish she had lived longer. I'm sure we would have written more songs, probably even with her,
right.
you know. And she was just beginning, really. She really, you know, she didn't like the way she sounded, but she was still finding herself. And
Wow.
so it's, you know, it is a tragedy, you know. I thought
Absolutely.
I thought that Amy Winehouse
Hmm.
reminded me a lot of Janis in that she channeled something, and when she sang it, it was truth, and
Yeah.
you felt that with Janis. I don't, uh, when I was a kid, my father took me to see Judy Garland when she was on one of her many tours, where she
Hmm.
sat on the edge of the stage, and got very, like, personal.
Right.
And, I think,
Vulnerable.
and I was just like, oh my God. So, that was seeing Janis, was similar, you know, and being in the presence of that, I don't know, that chanteuse that expresses,
Yeah.
you know,
They're
what
innermost.
we all feel. Yeah.
Yeah. And if they had another job, they wouldn't be noticed. They'd be scorned or something like that. I think it's you. One of the things that I noticed on your website is the use of we when you're writing about Orleans. And I love that because there's a band called Renaissance that I work with occasionally, and Betty Thatcher was a member of the band, and Betty wrote the lyrics for them for many until she passed away.
Hmm.
Is that
Well,
why
yeah.
it's
Well,
we?
yeah. Well, John and I mean, we created that band,
Cool.
and I was not on stage, but I was um, doing sort of, besides writing the material, I was um, doing publicity and sort of managerial kind of things,
Do it.
organizational things. Um, and, that's, there was a point where when they got their first record deal, they had this lawyer who was trying to get me out of the picture. And there was they had a cake to celebrate their signing their record deal, and
Cool.
I was excluded,
Ooh.
specifically excluded. And I had been right there in the trenches from day one. I mean, the band started in my house. Wells lived here. They rehearsed in the basement. We sat at the dining table and made all our decisions and did all our, And so I did some research, and I found out that there were two bands that had lyricist members that didn't perform.
Hmm.
One was Procol Harum and the other was C Train. And
Sure.
and so I came to the band and I said, I think I deserve to be a member of the band and considered as such. And I made a persuasive case and they agreed. And they gave me stock in Orleans Inc. when they incorporated, and I was given a per diem on the road. And, I mean, because I had been a writer myself,
Yeah.
I talked in sentences and paragraphs. And, and so
Yeah.
um, writers liked to interview me. And also, it was something unusual, a husband and wife, you know, writing team. And so John and I were like doing all of the interviews. And that was sometimes a cause for friction within the group.
Sure.
But I think that our story was like so many bands where we had built something that was really good. And it was hard for all of us to have the perspective that the sum was greater than the parts, right? That we each had our role and it made
Uh-huh.
something bigger. And I wish we had been a little more mature and realized that, because when there was friction, we said, "Oh, well, we don't need you. We'll just go and do our own thing," and that was a mistake.
It
But
often is. Yeah, I mean, diplomacy is something that
yeah,
there I've had a few relationships through the years that messed up
yeah,
because I wasn't old enough, experienced enough. But on the other hand, there was a lot of knowledge that you were bringing to the band. I think working in the music industry or the publishing industry as a writer, you are getting rock and roll lessons, career
yeah,
building lessons.
yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
what happens is then the bass player wants to be the songwriter, and the drummer wants to be the lead vocalist. And, you know, if you have good songwriters and you have a good lead vocalist, but you have to understand what your part is. And you see it over and over again. People are like,
Absolutely.
I want to be more than I am. Well, you're a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't do it without you.
Yeah. Or they
But
think you want to be more than what you're doing,
yeah,
or they ask you to do too much or
right.
something.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But it was a wonderful experience
Yeah,
being with that band. And I miss Wells and I miss Larry,
I
and
know.
um, I'm really you saw on my website that Jabberwocky video. It's on the front page. There's a video that Orleans found, actually, and so I put it on my website because they were such an amazing band,
Oh God, yeah.
um, such great players, and um,
Their their songs hit nerves. I mean, we can talk all day about how Still the One changed a lot of the media or inspired the media, but I want to talk about one of my songs that a song that helped me through a rough time, which was Time Passes On.
oh, thank
Yeah.
you, thank you.
Thank you.
That song has been meaningful to a lot of people and used for graduations, for funerals, for any marking the time
Mhm.
of, thank you. That's one I'm really proud of. Thank you.
I'm
Yeah.
really grateful for that. It helped me through some rough times.
Mm.
When I was a teenager after my mom died,
Oh,
especially. Yeah, that
how
was,
old were how old were you?
I was 18-ish, 18,
Oh, wow.
going on 19. Yeah. But she was also, she was an artist, and
Hmm.
it, it, it's one of those songs. And I think there's a video actually on YouTube of, uh, Lance and John singing it in Woodstock. At
Could it have been Larry's memorial?
Yeah, it might have been Larry's memorial at
Yeah.
Woodstock. So it's there. It's that story for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and
Some
thank
some
you, Beck.
sometimes John and I would say when we were writing songs, it was like 3D fossil hunting. It would seem like the song existed, and we
Yeah,
just like found it in the air. And those are the best kinds. you know. Um,
Sentiments.
Bonnie Raitt once said, "Here's songs I feel like I've always known them," and I think that's what she was getting at. That like you tap into something that's I don't know if I should say eternal, but something that's there to be
Uh,
found.
yeah,
Yeah,
good enough, which both she and the Captain and Tennille and maybe others. I'd like to see one of those
yeah.
K-pop bands do it.
From your mouth to goddess's ear.
Yeah,
Yes. Wouldn't
I'm
that be
trying.
great?
I'm trying.
Wouldn't that
I
be great? Yeah,
that it's just such a perfect song.
it is.
Yeah. So there's a question my friend Rita Rich, who actually worked on a project with me and John, and I'm also thinking of the Wonder article where he's introducing Minnie Riperton and her husband Dick. It like Dick seems referred to as Minnie's husband. And my friend Rita, she worked in radio with a lot of folks, including Jim Bohannon and David Assel. She asks about being known for you, yourself, versus being known as John Hall's wife or a member of Orleans, because she
Mm-hmm.
was always referred too much as Chuck's wife.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
I know. I'm
That is
David's sister.
it is a struggle. It definitely is. Um, and it is Women's History Month.
Yes, it is.
And one of the things I've been thinking about because is forgotten women.
Hmm.
Because when I approached Barbara last year, like, let's write something new, she said, I don't know, I'm thinking about women. I don't know, something about women. And since then, I've come across some really interesting women I didn't know about.
Right.
One of them was Marguerite Porete, who was one of the Beguines. I don't know if that's how you say it. Beguine. It was a group of women who, in the Middle Ages, lived independently of men. And when women didn't own anything, at all, and they had their own little communities. And this nun, Marguerite Porete, wrote this book about love, which was burned, and she was burned at the stake. But women kept this book alive,
Right.
and I ordered it, um, and it's stayed in print all these hundreds of years. And who ever heard of Marguerite Porete? Um, and then I came across a Black woman composer, Florence Price, and her struggle to get any kind of attention. And she persisted. And I got a CD of her symphony. Um, and then, I read the tarot, and
Okay.
I have the Rider Waite deck that from, I've had it for over 50 years. It never the the art was done by a woman named Pamela Coleman Smith.
Hmm.
And it didn't say that. Now they put it on the box with
Good.
art by, but back then they did not. And I never heard her name. And now I know that if you look at the cards, she has a little in the corner of each one, her initials, So then I recently had a conversation with George Gilbert, our John's and my music business lawyer. And
Okay.
he's representing um, the estate of Laura Nero. And there's a woman who's making a documentary about Laura Nero. Now, this woman also did the recent documentary about Shari Lewis, who had
Oh,
lamb chops. She was a TV
yeah, yeah,
person.
yeah, yeah. The puppet.
Uh, yeah, and she also did Love Gilda, the about
Oh,
Gilda Radner,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so now she's doing this um, documentary about Laura Nero. And George told me that I'm sorry, I can't. I have her name written down. She seems to be like an amazing filmmaker.
Hmm.
And George said what she says she's interested in is forgotten women. And that just really struck a chord with me
Yeah.
because I think that's such an interesting story.
There is a certain, and what you're doing with your website is right. There is a certain thing where us writers will look back on our output and go, "Oh wow, this is
That's right.
there are some good things." Or people will approach us online that read your work and I never knew these people.
Right. Right.
And it
Right.
it does make you feel like $1 million or more,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
billion,
Yeah.
trillion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, this website is my attempt to sometimes I feel like the ghost in the room, you
Hmm.
know, unnamed, unmentioned. And
Right.
this is my way to say, you know, I was here.
Yeah. I mean, that's another great thing about the internet is uh, our legacies can be preserved for a long time if we
That's
just
right.
dis
That's right.
distribute them. So I like that a lot. Um,
Amen.
I'm
Amen,
watch.
sister.
I have to ask you about television because a lot of the shows that I watch are uh,
Huh?
women taking empowered women. I'm watching right now The Man in the High Castle, and the superhero, the strongest person in that show, is a female, and she's an Aikido master, and she's the one she has a trust of people, but it opens her up to understanding what people are about, and she's going to be the hero of the TV show. I can feel it.
And so, where do you see this?
It's on Netflix, and the
The
show,
Man in the High
yeah,
Castle? Hmm.
yeah, it's the show has the show might remind you of some of the crap that's going on in America on steroids now, but
Oh, boy.
it it's what this country would be like if Japan had won World War II on their side of our country and
Oh,
Germany on
on the other side?
our side.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
but there's a resistance.
Love that
And
resistance.
yeah,
Yeah.
there
Well,
is a resistance.
yeah.
What are you watching on TV?
Well, I record Stephen Colbert
Oh, he's
every
the
every,
best.
every night, and I'm not up at 11:30, so I have
Mhm.
it on record, and I watch it the next day,
Right.
and I love him. You know,
Yeah.
when he first did the Tonight Show, um, early on, he and Steve Carell sang "Dance with Me" on the show a cappella.
Yes, they
Yeah,
did.
two of them. Um, but uh, so and I watch Rachel Maddow. Same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I record Rachel, and I usually can't watch it before bed
No.
because it's But I always see her show, and right now I'm watching Dark Wind because I was a Hillerman fan. Tony Hillerman was a writer of
Mhm.
novels, and it's based on those characters.
Right,
It's
right.
Um, Navajo policeman, and I'm a big fan of um, oh, what's their name? The couple that created The Good Wife, then it spun off into The Good Life, and then they
Mm.
did a couple of other shows. Robert and Michelle King. Um, and the one that they have on now is called Elspeth, is a character that came out of The Good Wife. And that's just, Wendell Pierce is in it.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down and I'll find it.
Yeah, it's CBS.
Okay.
Elspeth. Wendell Pierce was in The Wire. That was everybody's all-time favorite series,
Yeah, that is
and
or
he's
thereabouts.
it's kind of a sitcom, Elspeth, but it's smart. And
I like that.
the Kings are really good writers. They had one show one summer. I forget what is it called. It takes place in Washington, and when the cherry blossoms bloom, there are these like worms that go into people's ears and
Huh.
eat their brains, and so that explains Republicans. You know,
Okay, Junior.
you know
Yeah.
their brains are gone. Um,
It's fiction, folks. This is fiction.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I I do watch TV, but I'm trying to read books. And the other night I picked up a novel and I got really engrossed in it. And I think it's healthier to, it's more of an active pursuit to read from a book and imagine than to like
Yeah.
be watching TV all the time. And I'm definitely addicted to screens. Like,
Duh.
you know, um,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
I watch Turner classic movies a lot.
Mm,
Like that's my sort of go-to. I'll put the TV on and see what's on TCM, and I get to see a lot of wonderful old films that way.
yeah. I like watching movies as well. I'm
I've
totally behind in my movie listening.
oh, me too.
Watching.
I'm going to watch Sinners because
Oh yeah.
it's on HBO Max, which I have, and I want to see that. Um, and it seemed like there were a few good movies that were worth seeing. Hamnet was one of my favorite books, and
Everybody
so
loves the
I'm
movie.
almost afraid to see the movie because it's
Mm,
not the book. You
no,
know, um,
absolutely.
I'm a reader. I think I'd
Yeah,
like to
well,
think I've always been.
I
Uh,
read slower. It takes me about there's about 4 or 5 books I'm working on.
oh,
Uh,
really? At a time?
y- yeah, because what
Wow.
happens is somebody comes out with another book that I need to read, so it's really hard to just
Do you
sit
read?
with
Do,
one.
do you read fiction? What kind
I
of
like
books do you like?
I like biographies. Um, I had read Nelson Mandela's biography, and that took me about 6 months to finish. But it was like 600 pages, and
Oh,
um, I just started reconnecting with a friend who's no longer with us, Danny Schechter, and so he has a book, Madiba A to Z: The Many Faces of Nelson Mandela, and he was very involved with Little Steven's Ain't Gonna Play Sun City
yeah,
project.
right.
So that that and then Randy Poe has a biography about um uh I can't believe I'm going blank, but he Buck Owens, Buckham.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm a country girl.
yeah. So you're interested in books about people,
Yeah.
real people.
Yeah.
Did you read Keith Richards' book?
No, I have not. I'm writing that down. You're saying I
Big.
like I would like it.
Yeah, well, it's big. Um,
I I think he's instinctually rock and roll. He is completely and
yeah,
I've learned from some of his interviews, so I have a feeling.
yeah. It's a good book. Um, Probably you've read Patti Smith's books.
I have not read her
Oh,
book, and nor have I read her children's book. I did
well,
read I Me Mine, George Harrison, recently,
Patty is a
almost
good
recently.
writer. She's literary.
Yeah,
Uh, Just Kids.
yeah,
I
yeah. That's
would
the
start
book.
with that. I would start with that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the book that I had heard about.
yeah.
And we do have Billy Collins in common.
Oh,
So he came
tell
up to
me.
your place. He was one of my poetry teachers back about 2004-ish,
Oh, yeah.
um,
That's about when I met him.
at Lehman College. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
hosted an event with him?
Well, I wrote on my website about his visit. I think it was 2004. I have the date on the website. He gave a reading at Ulster Community College, SUNY
Mhm.
Ulster, where I was artist in residence.
Sweet.
And there was a program that brought visiting poets every semester. And the semester that Billy came, he had just been the poet laureate of the US, and he was now the poet laureate of New York State.
Yeah.
And so it was such a big score for the college that he came and did an evening reading, that the president had a very elegant dinner at his house beforehand. And um, I got to sit with Billy over dinner, and he turned out to be a huge music fan. And he plays the piano, and he did a lot of sitting around playing songs with his friends. And so he couldn't believe he was meeting me. I mean, I couldn't believe I was meeting him, you know.
Oh.
And he he said something that really stuck with me. He said about still the one. You
Mhm.
got to put a phrase in the language. Not many people get to do that.
Yes, you did.
And so, and I wrote about that on the website. One of the pearls that, yeah, he, there's two pictures there. One is a graffiti that John's and my daughter took on her honeymoon in Portugal, where somebody spray painted on a wall, "You're still the one." And the other little thing is there was a refrigerator magnet for Les Mis that has the Les Mis girl, and then it says "Still the one."
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so those were like my illustrations of what Billy Collins said, that this put a phrase into the language. People understood,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it made them think of the song.
Absolutely.
Of course, you know that Shania Twain wrote a song called "You're
Yeah.
Still the One."
And she was allowed to. You can't copyright a title
And
as
copyrighted title. John was livid because
oh no.
it kind of it followed the structure lyrically. It was "You're still the one that this, you're still the one that that,"
Oh, he
and
noticed it. I didn't.
well, yeah. I mean, and but our publisher didn't want to go up against Shania Twain and
No.
Mutt
You,
Lang, you know.
yeah, you
So
can't copyright a
no,
title anyhow.
no, you can't. And there were. She was very clever at taking ideas and twist, you know, doing
Yeah,
her version of it.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think,
You could
yeah,
trace back roots of most of her songs. Like, this is the song that's like this, you know, um, inspiration. Um, but
I have to out Billy for something because one of the classes that we had with him, he said imitate a poem, and I think he gave us a William Carlos Williams poem that started and ended with the same line, and we would create a starting and ending line. So it is done as writers, that
oh, yeah.
technique.
Oh, that you follow. Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Of
follow
course.
the format.
Of
It's
course.
sonnets,
Yeah.
Shakespeare.
Of course. Yeah. I mean,
Sorry, John. I love you.
yeah. No,
I
we
know.
all we adhere to um forms that maybe we don't even realize that that's what we're uh
Yeah.
following.
C, A
But
minor, F, G.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So,
I, yeah, I mean, I want to say something. Another poet that you worked with, Naomi
she,
Shihab Nye.
yes.
Um, I do a group called the Kindness Session twice a year at the Poe Cottage in the Bronx, and we every session we do a Poe poem, and we do her poem Kindness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She, oh my God. She came here a couple of times. Um, and I got to be uh her her guide. And that woman is constantly writing, is just like, I mean, this was a while ago, but I bet she's not any different now. But she was just so fluent. She,
Mm-hmm.
she was, yeah, one of my favorite people.
Really
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah. And she helped Sophie get a poem published.
You're
Sophie has not really pursued poetry. She's a good poet, but because of Naomi, she got a poem published in a journal.
It's one of your family members, Sophie.
Sophie is the daughter of John and me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sweet.
yeah, she's our daughter. She was
She's
born
a
in 79, so she's, you know, 46, and
right.
her daughter is about to be 12.
Sweet.
Yeah. So,
This is, yeah, I'm learning from you, and I always have. I've enjoyed your wall, your social media page, and
oh,
now your website is rich, and I'm going
thank,
to post the link in the description below, as well as a few other interesting links uh that we talked about in this interview.
okay, great.
Um, is there anything you want to add before?
No, this was great. A lot of food for thought. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot. And you're on my you were on my wish list, and I have a feeling we're gonna, because of how rich your story is, I have a feeling we'll be doing more talking. So I'm really thankful
That would be
for
great.
this.
That would be great. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, and have a great day. So
You too. Happy
thanks.
spring.
Absolutely.